Hey, what's up? This isn't going to be a super long one this time. It is currently 4:30 in the morning right now, and I just felt the inspiration to try to get this video done. Because if I learned anything, the long video I've been working on, I dropped by now because I've lost all inspiration to keep doing that. I'll eventually finish it, but I've learned my lesson. If I have an idea, I'm doing it right now. So I've been getting footage for the last, I don't know, maybe hour and thinking up this idea or whatever, but this is not going to be an hour-long video like it usually is for me. So hopefully you'll be in and out here in less than 10 minutes because I want to go to sleep, but I know if I go to bed, I'm going to wake up and I'm not going to do this tomorrow. So with that out of the way, so tonight I've been playing so much of that Persona 3 Portable port. That's kind of the point, not really the point, but so I'm well, now that Goldeneye's on Game Pass, I'm I want to check that out. I want to see what's up with that because I love Goldeneye, I love Perfect Dark. So I'm what I was assuming. This is gonna be a little off the cuff, but what I was assuming was that was gonna be the unreleased 360 port of it, more kind of remake, kind of port, something in between. I assumed there's going to be that, the Perfect Dark port that's on the 360 and the Xbox series of consoles and Xbox One and stuff. That, on the One X and the Series X, you can run in 4K 60 with HDR and stuff. So I'm sitting here thinking it's going to be like that or whatever. So I got around to checking it out tonight. But before I did, I was reading a little bit of stuff about it. I'm wait, people are having problems with this? I'm what's going on? I've consumed the remake port thing or whatever, the 360. I'm that was great. I'm that was really good. I've played a lot of mostly multiplayer matches and that, but I'm that was fantastic. So I'm what's going on with that? I'm seeing people's limited to 30 FPS. I'm that's kind of gross, but I'm that's not the end of the world. And then people talking about and I don't think they were articulating it well, but talking about frame starters and stuff, and I'm okay, what's going on here? I'm there's no way that the Series X can't run this. The Xbox One should be, the 360 could do a better job. So I'm what's going on here? So I played it for a little bit, and it's definitely 4K. It looks clear. It looks not sharp, but clear. However, yeah, as far as pure resolution, it's great. But the problem comes, the frame rate, it's not the fact that it's just 30 FPS. Something is, and I'm going to have footage of all these different versions I'm talking about. I'm going to show you the three, I'll put the N64 first. I'm capturing an RGB modded N64 through an OSSC. And then a little bit of a really cool mod somebody did to increase the resolution to 480i internally. So that way you can get a better look of the actual assets coming from an actual N64. Granted, the frame rate's horrible. Obviously, it's running in 480i. I think it is using the expansion pack, but still, it's crazy. So that way you can get a real raw look at the graphics. And then I'll show you a little bit of the 360 remake thing, because I feel that's a good middle point for this video. And then I'll, put for the remainder of the video the Series X footage to show you what I'm talking about. I'm sure if, you guys have been playing it out there, you'll see exactly what I mean. Especially, I think that a lot of people, maybe they just haven't touched Goldeneye in a while, which is, completely understandable. But I still keep all my old stuff hooked up. Me and my friend group, we'll play Goldeneye and stuff, both versions. So it's still fresh in my head. And I don't, because I tend to play older games very often. It doesn't, I don't forget or have nostalgia for this. I mean, I do have nostalgia for this stuff, but it's not oh, I'm only thinking about this as it was 20 years ago or something. It's no. I am aware of how it is right now to play. And even if you're talking about oh well, CRTs and stuff, that's definitely gonna be better for the image. Absolutely. But then I'm also playing my N64 through the OSSC and running that through my 4K TV, and obviously it's getting a lot of help through the OSSC. But I still know how this should look, and I have very reasonable expectations. I'm not expecting anything crazy, and I don't think anybody else really is either. But it is kind of baffling what's going on with this. So what I was saying is it's not just 30 FPS. 30 FPS, I can live with that. It's whatever. But the fact that it's inconsistent and there's almost bad frame pacing going on, Like, I really, really wonder what's going on with that, because it is, like, very, like, I'm very attuned to, I'm not trying to sound like, oh, like I'm so smart and stuff like that, but I'm like super attuned to the technical side of things, resolutions, frame rates, hardware, all this. Like, I live and breathe hardware. But like, I can still look past things if it's just fun. You know, like I'm not that stuck up about this kind of things. But no, like, there's something like actually wrong with this. It's like delivering frames either at an inconsistent rate or it's dropping them and skipping them, which is not something. I feel like it's doing something that the game originally does not do when it's like running behind on cycles. Like, I can't think of a better way to say that right now. Like I said, 4:30 in the morning, I want to get this video out. It's like doing something that the original build of the game is like not doing when it slows down. Like, that game kind of slows, like actually slows down, and it's definitely like skips some frames, but it's more so slow down. But it's like this like. I don't know if I want to call it a remaster, but like on the Series X and stuff, it's just skipping those entirely. But it also has no excuse for dropping them like that. Like, something is clearly actually wrong here. So on top of that, I'm not on top of that, but I will say though, like, as far as controls, which is, you know, super important. I know so many people want to complain about the N64 controller, but I feel like for stuff like GoldenEye and Perfect Dark, it's great. Like, being able to strafe with the C button and stuff, like, I always thought that was comfortable. But I do kind of understand it from the perspective when you start trying to get, like, really accurate and you're trying to, like zoom in and aim and stuff with a reticle, because that starts to get kind of trashy. But I've always been comfortable enough with the N64 controller for this. But, like, as far as how they map the controls, it's amazing. It feels really natural in a way where it's like, I don't feel like I'm playing how I play it on the N64. I feel like I'm playing it like a modern FPS game. It feels super natural. All the buttons are like in really good locations and stuff like that. Like, at the end of the day, I'm not like, I think what's most important is that this feels good to play as far as the controls and stuff. Like, if you don't care that much and stuff, and even me, like, actually really caring, I still sat down and I played this for a bit. I was having a good time. I'm gonna finish it and stuff. I was still really enjoying it. I just want to nitpick the technical aspect because I'm interested in that, and I'm sure other people are too. So I'm not saying like, oh, don't play it, this is an absolute piece of trash. Just like, I'm aware of this stuff, and I'm sure other people are too, and kind of want to like see what's going on about it. So like, it's the most important thing. It's still fun to play. It's good enough. I especially considering, like, for most people, they're probably not even like buying this. It's probably just going to be through their already existing subscription or rare replay or whatever. Or I don't have any footage of it on NSO, but I know that's just straight N64 emulation, so it wouldn't be too important right now. If I was able to get footage of that, I would, but I don't really have the capabilities of that right now. However, so it's fine to play, go play it and stuff still, and like boot up some multiplayer matches locally and stuff. Just like, you know, have fun with it. But what I also, like I said, I want to show you a little bit of footage of how the remaster thing or remake or whatever on the 360 is, because I didn't realize how like huge this was. This is one of the coolest things. It's got that same thing that the Master Chief Collection has on the Xbox consoles and PC and stuff, where you can press a button and you can see like pretty much an approximation of the original graphics. It's super cool to like toggle in between those two, and I know somewhere in the footage I'm like toggling in between the two graphical modes while staring out at that like the little place in the damn level thing or whatever. That's also secretive and spooky. So that feature's really cool. But like, yeah, I didn't realize, first of all, it's 60 FPS. It's not 30 with stutters. It just runs flawlessly, which is no surprise considering how good Perfect Dark was on the 360. It's like that. Like, it's more modernized. The controls suck default wise. Like, you'll see in the footage, because again, it's like super late for me, so I wasn't gonna spend super long getting a bunch of footage and stuff. And this is just gonna be like a one-off fun thing for me. Maybe not one-off. I might do more stuff like this, honestly. But yeah, the default controls, and I didn't want to look too far into them. They're garbage. Like, I was like, you could see in the footage, I kept like cycling through the wrong things and stuff, and like not finding the button to press switches and stuff. Like, default controls are not good. I don't like them very much. However, as far as and that stuff you can change and stuff, so it really doesn't matter that much. But as far as graphically and frame rate wise, it's beautiful. Like, it's in like an actual honest to god remake of it, while still looking faithful. It doesn't look like a different game entirely. This is like a great remake. It looks exactly how you would think in your head it looks. And I didn't like. I thought, because I booted up the Series X version first or whatever. I'm like, yeah, this looks fine or whatever. But yeah, no, that remake looked so much better. The other thing I've noticed, and I saw other people talking about this, it's like some people say this is how it was, but it wasn't. They're talking about like the texture warbling kind of effect. It almost looks like PS1 games with like that inaccurate Z-axis, I believe is the reason. It's like doing that, and it shouldn't. It shouldn't. I know some people, and again, I'm not dogging on you or anything, but some people are like, oh, no, that's how it always was. No, it's absolutely not. I have footage of the N64 version. The N64 doesn't have that kind of Z-axis. I can't remember the exact terminology for it, but that kind of like Z-axis problem with texture correct perspective stuff. It doesn't have that problem. The hardware's actually capable of correctly rendering that kind of stuff out in a correct perspective. So something's like wrong here. So from what I read, this is like pure just N64 emulation, just upscaled and stuff. But it's like, and again, I'm not trying to dog on Code Mystics or anything, because they're honestly really good. They've done really good stuff, especially like in the PC fighting game space with rollback netcode. I'm thinking of the same company. I believe that's Code Mystics. Not trying to spread misinformation, but 4:30 in the morning. So I'm not dogging them or whatever. I'm sure it's a super tight schedule, like no money to do this port and stuff like that. But it's not a great job. You see those kind of like seam breaking things happen when you just upscale things haphazardly through emulation, like internally and stuff, and where like seam lines are super visible between different objects and stuff like that. And again, it's like it's not like that originally, like at all. I have footage, like double resolution in the N64 essentially. I know it's 480i, not P or anything, but you can see it does not behave like that, like at all. That's weird. The texture warbling isn't right. I feel like I saw another issue pop up, but I can't remember exactly what it was. But like those are the two, and like obviously the frame issues going on. There's like no excuse for that. I don't know what's going on. So this port is really dodgy, and I wonder like what happened and how it was like okay to release this. Like again, like I'm not trying to say like, oh, this is like the end of the world. This is such a bad port and stuff like that. Like you could totally just play this and have fun. There's not, it's not that bad, but it's like questionable. Like this should have been such an easy slam dunk, and it's like, what happened? My guess is that they had no rights or no way to use that already existing, pretty much finished remake that was on the 360. Which when I saw this pop up or whatever, I'm like, oh, it's gonna be that or whatever, and they just like finished it or whatever. But somebody must not have the rights, or maybe it was just too quick of a thing, or licensing deals going on, which that doesn't really make sense because they have the license to release the game again. But I don't know, maybe the original team working on that specific build or something doesn't okay it or whatever. So it's not what I was expecting, because I was expecting that, but like in 4K 60 HDR, and I'm like, this is gonna be amazing, and it's like underwhelming. It's like, this is GoldenEye. The controls are great, but the frame issues, the texture warbling and stuff, and like the seam lines between different things, it's like, this is kind of garbo. Like, in the sense of, this should have been so easy. This shouldn't have been. And again, I'm not saying just straight emulation stuff is always like easy. That's not what I'm saying. But for what this is, and the hardware you're targeting, something isn't aligning here. And until we hear more about it, I don't think we're really going to know the exact reasons why. Because even if it was just pure N64 emulation, they could have done a better job with this. So that's all I want to talk about in this video. Let me know how you're enjoying it, how you're experiencing it. If you just went back to the N64, I don't know. Just like leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that stuff. I don't like to do it, but I'm going to talk more about game stuff and music and all that kind of stuff. So enjoy your night. I need to go to bed later.